US.
South Carolina began leading America out of our long national funk. South Carolina is leading by example and by the force of its Palmetto will. From now on, from Charleston to Long Creek, from Beaufort to Columbia to Greenville, every day is going to be a great day, a doggone great day every day, and don't you forget it, because from now on, by order of South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, your call to the State Parks Department or the prison system or any of the other fine South Carolina agencies you might call for any reason will be answered by someone saying, by gubernatorial mandate, and I quote, "It's a great day in South Carolina." Not hello, you have to answer the phone by saying, "It's a great day in South Carolina." Order of the governor. Governor Haley is a rookie Republican, elected last year on a small government, business-friendly platform. She says she needs all the positivity that she can get in South Carolina. This month at a local Rotary Club, she repeated a story she says she's told 1,000,000 times, that at one major South Carolina employer, half the people applying for a job failed a drug test. Half the people. And that's why Governor Haley said she wants to drug test everyone who applies for unemployment benefits in the state.
I still want drug testing. I still want it. The problem is I've got to make sure the numbers work.
Governor Haley so wants drug testing. She says she just has to make sure the numbers work. Like, say, those numbers she just mentioned about half the people applying for a particular job in South Carolina being on drugs. Turns out those numbers do not work. Executives at the employer she cited by name say that, in fact, they don't even test all job applicants, only the ones who accept a job offer. And of those, the company says, quote, "We had less than 1% of those hired test positive," which does not mean half. Not even close, not even within 50. But it looked so attractive when Florida tried it, this whole mandatory drug testing thing. So Governor Haley likes it anyway. Governor Haley's rookie Republican counterpart in Florida, Rick Scott, also ran as a small government, business-friendly conservative. Governor Scott also pushed for mandatory drug testing, in his case, for anyone who applies for welfare.
People that are on welfare are higher users of drugs than people not on welfare.
Not true, sir. Let's make sure those numbers work. We do have some data now because the Florida Legislature passed Governor Rick Scott's bill and he signed it. The law went into effect in July. The AP reporting that so far about 2.5% of welfare applicants failed the drug test. On top of that, 2% of all applicants declined to take the test. So let's call that 4.5% at most altogether, even if you damn everybody who just didn't take the test. Again, from the AP, quote, "The Justice Department estimates that 6% of Americans 12 and older use illegal drugs," which means Florida welfare recipients are some rather clean living folks by comparison to everybody else. Not only are Governor Rick Scott and the state lawmakers wrong about who uses drugs, they are costing the Florida taxpayers money because the state pays the cost of every test that someone passes. In his most recent column at the Miami Herald, author Hiaasen noted the shortcomings of Governor Scott's plan, saying, quote, "Interestingly, the governor's pee in the cup mandate doesn't apply to the one bunch that whizzes away more tax dollars than anyone else, the legislators who pass such useless laws. I say line up all 160 of them for a patriotic whiz-fest at the Capitol Clinic. You think more than 2.5% might test positive? Let's find out. And I will pay for it out of my own pocket." Seriously, he says. Joining us now for the interview is Hiaasen, Miami Herald columnist, best-selling author, South Florida native, and the one person I most wanted to talk to about this tonight. Mr. Hiaasen, thank you for being here.
Hi, Rachel. How are you? It's a great night in Florida, by the way.
You know, I was really worried that that might spread and that you couldn't say hello to anybody from South Carolina without them saying that back to you like an automaton. That would be cause for a new civil war. In terms of your offering to pay for state lawmakers to be drug tested, any reaction so far? Anybody thinking of it?
I heard that 2 of them had agreed to do it, so that only leaves, I think, 158 more. I'm holding my breath.
What is the justification for testing welfare recipients and state employees, but not anybody else who receives state funds, like lawmakers, as you suggest, like state contractors, lottery winners? Why just people on welfare and state employees?
It's an easy target. I mean, this is class warfare. This is picking on the folks who happen to be unemployed, especially the ones with children. And their testing, it's such a lower rate than the general population. The most recent federal drug survey shows national drug use at about 8.9%, almost 9%. These people are living like monks compared to them. But it's very easy and it's very popular to go after the poor and the disabled and those who are struggling to get work right now, and that's what they did. My point was that these legislators control $70 billion. That's the size of our state budget. They should be first in line for any drug testing immediately, and it would be a public service.
In terms of how we got to this place, obviously Rick Scott campaigned in Florida as a small government conservative, somebody who wanted to shrink both the role and the size of government. Why don't we have any sort of mental disconnect, any sort of like cognitive friction over the idea that government is now intrusive enough to be forcibly demanding urine samples or hair samples from anybody who wants to do something as simple as apply for benefits?
And all you have to do is walk in the door. You don't have to show any signs of drug use. Just it's completely without suspicion, without basis in fact. Yeah, these are the guys that preached small government, that ranted and raved about government reaching its hands into people's private lives. And the first thing they do when they get into office is go after the poor and the unemployed. So it's full of hypocrisy, but they were an easy target. Obviously, it was a condescending and prejudicial attitude. You heard the governor's soundbite where he just announced blithely that welfare applicants use drugs at a higher rate than the rest of us. It's not, by the way, the first time that Rick Scott has gotten his facts messed up, and I'm sure it won't be the last.
One of the things that you have written about on this subject recently is the fact that what Rick Scott is doing with this mandatory drug testing thing, however hard it is to justify and however screwed up his facts may be in explaining it, is pretty popular.
It is. Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, I mean, the idea is that it sounds great. There's a very reasonable assumption that people who are struggling to find work and who are unemployed shouldn't be spending their money on dope. And we can all say, yeah, that would be a really bad idea. Can you legislate that? No. And is this helping or hurting the problem? And the big issue also is the cost to taxpayers. The expense of it, not just the drug test, but administering this law and fighting all the legal battles to preserve the law, which, by the way, has been challenged successfully in other states. And in one case, the U.S. Supreme Court in 1997 threw out a law that Georgia briefly had saying that all candidates for political office had to undergo drug testing. By an 8-to-1 vote, the U.S. Supreme Court said that was a violation of the Fourth Amendment. So all these costs are accrued now to Florida taxpayers, to all of us, by a governor who promised us less expense, less government, and now we have a whole other layer of bureaucracy thanks to him. And I should say the lawmakers who cheered and pushed this thing forward overwhelmingly.
Carl Hiaasen, Miami Herald columnist, best-selling author, and man who is offering to pay for the drug tests of all of Florida's legislatures. If you get a majority, if we're getting close to a majority saying yes, I would please like to be there along with a camera crew, if you don't mind.
Yeah, but the deal is all or nothing. This is what they do to the applicants for the welfare funds. It's all or nothing. Everybody's got to do it. So all 160 of these folks have to stand there with their little cup and do the deed. And if the lab sends me the bill, I'll send a check the next day.
It's a deal. You will send a check, and I will send a crew, and I will be there. I promise. All right, we got the. Thank you very much, Carl. It's nice to see you. We got the best new thing in the world today coming up.